Hello and welcome to your post-impressionism sphere demonstration. We're actually going to start out by mixing up some colors, and we're going to paint the background colors for the post-impressionism and for the blending. That way tomorrow, or whenever you get to the blending, it's dry. So you want it to have a dry layer before adding paint on, and for over here that's not totally necessary. So think of what color scheme you want to do. I'm going to do like a pinkishy purple one, analogous for this one. And for blending on this, I believe I'm going to do like yellows. Actually, let me go greens because I haven't done any like true green. So I'll go greens on this one. All right, so I am running out of stuff. So I'm going to pre-mix for both of them. Of course, you can use the same color scheme for both of those if you wish. All right, so I'm going to put my white in the center. Oh, I do have a paper towel. Okay. Get my white blob. Actually, I might, let me do a little bit more white, just because I have two highlights to do, and I might use it to make some analogous colors. Okay, so then I'm going to wipe off my stick. Okay, then I'm going to do my reds. I feel like I just need a little bit more. And actually, one of these, I'm going to turn it to pink. Probably that one, actually. And I'm going to do a little bit of my warm red because I want to make a little bit more of that orange. Okay. All right. Cool red, or the darker red. The one that doesn't look orangish. And wipe off that stick. Save it for later. I don't need more black. I haven't even touched that black. Okay, so I'm going to mix up a green. I'm just going to plop it on top of this one. Let's make it there. And actually, let me do a little bit extra on that one. So you only want a little bit because when we're, you only have 2 more practices. And then we're going to clean this out before you start your actual final one, so you can kind of reload it with all your colors. Because this, in the tray, it lasts about a week. Did I just use blue on that stick? Dang it, I did. Oh well, okay. Thought I was being all prepared. Okay. I'll do a little bit more yellow just in case. Trying to think, what else do I need? Oh, some yellow for my orange over here. A little bit more. Actually, I'm going to make a dark green. So I should always start with the lightest color yellow. I'm making green or orange. Let me go darker blue. Whoa. And if yours is chunky, if you have a chunky color, it's just that the binder is starting to separate from the water. And so you just want to stir it up really good when it's in this tray. And then I just kind of flatten it down a little bit. So on the dark blues, it happens. Yellow, it happens often. Like they just tend to not go bad, but separate faster. Plus, I'll admit, like the colors you're using or the paint you're using it's high quality for student grade, but it's not high quality in general. Okay, mix up all your colors. I'm going to use my medium brush. I can use the end of the brush. If you have an extra stick, you could use a stick. I'm going to actually use the end of the brush. Okay, so actually I'm going to make this into an orangish pink. Let me just see what color. That looks peachy to me, and it looks straight up orange to you. Okay, well, that red. Usually if I'm making pink, I mix the two reds a little bit, and then you get like a deeper pink. And if you want pink pink, then use the warm red, the darker red with white, mostly white. Okay, so I want a nice medium tone. That's gonna be for my sphere. Okay, rinsing off my brush, wiping it off. I'm just wiping it off on the newspaper. Okay, so end of the brush. Got my orange. And so I'm gonna kind of scrape the sides a little bit, make sure I don't dip my brush in and get a totally different color. Oh, still getting a totally different color. Okay, hold on. I need another paper towel. I do, and there's not one near me. Okay. It's a nice, for me it's a medium green. I don't know what it looks like for you. I guess it depends on your screen as well. I'm just gonna use the same, and I didn't even clean it off because I'm just making another green anyway. Scrape the sides. Okay, I am gonna make violet, but I don't need very much of it, so I'm just gonna kind of let it be. Okay. This is going to be the post-impressionism one. This one's going to be the blending. This one I'm going to do more greenish. This one's going to be more pinks and reds and purples. Oh, I was like, this is taking forever because I'm using my medium brush and not my large brush. Okay, let me switch brushes. Let me flatten out that piece. So for post-impressionism, you want a decent amount of your colors because you're going to use those to make other colors. So if you're like, oh, I have barely any, like make more of it, more than you think you're going to need, which is what we're going to do for our final paintings as well. Because when I'm like, I'm going to take some of, oh, that looks orange. It looks pink. It's totally pink to me. Oh, well. Anyway, so I'm gonna pull out this color to make violet. I'm gonna pull it out to make a lighter pink. So I'm gonna use that color to make other versions, analogous versions of this color. Turn it so my arm is comfortable. Okay. They want like a nice kind of medium value. I am not so concerned with perfectly cleaning off my brush. This one's gonna have like tons of color on it anyway, but I'm just digging into my dark red. Sometimes like for these I won't necessarily mix them. I mix some of the colors, but maybe not the background color. This for your actual painting, you're definitely going to mix your own colors. You have to. It's part of your grade. Oh, sorry. And so in that small little corner, if you're not good at painting, you can get a smaller brush to get into the small areas. I'll switch brush to go above. Switch the brush. I flipped over my brush. Just gonna switch the brush for that. Actually, I'll switch my brush for the rest of this part. Okay. Go with my smaller flat brush. Drag it along the edge. I feel like this one is a little bit higher. I feel like I had more space on my other ones above. Okay. Turn it so your arm is comfortable to get a clean edge. I'm going to use the same color for the cast shadow. And I'm going to go with like a lighter pink for the surface. Like probably a lighter, yeah, I was thinking a lighter pinky orange, but this already looks pinky orange. And so if I didn't get a clean, like I didn't really get a good clean edge on the sphere at the bottom. So I'm kind of overlapping it slightly to clean up that edge. So this one does not have to be like perfect, because we're gonna add lots of layers to this one anyway. And this one is, you know, like more loose than the other two. So don't be so concerned on this one. Now for your blending, we're gonna be a little more concerned. I could actually keep it kind of textury. I could like just leave it like that if I wanted to, but just like that a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna mix up a slightly different color for the surface. I'm actually gonna pull out some of that original color and then some white, mostly white because I want it to be pink, and then a touch of the other red. Mix up a color for the surface. And so you want like a little bit extra. So I'm just kind of keeping in mind, like, you're gonna need a little extra. And kind of scoop it into a pile. Like, making up a puddle of it. If it's not perfectly blended, for this one it doesn't matter. So again, if it's hard to get clean edges with wet paint next to wet paint for you, you can always blow dry But you want to start out with really good craftsmanship. And we're just trying to cover the white part of the canvas. Okay, good enough for that one. Okay, let's do the blending one. That way it's all dry. And you might have to, honestly, you might have to do 2 layers to get it to be solid. We want it to be super solid. We don't want to see any of the brush strokes. And you definitely want to flatten this one out. So you don't want ridges. Paint, if you can avoid it. And you don't want a lot of water on your brush, so if you cleaned out your brush between colors, definitely dry it. You want like a mid-tone, like a medium value for the blended sphere. I'm just going back and kind of flattening over, making sure it's as flat as I can get it. Okay, actually I forgot to mix up the surface color. Okay, I'm gonna mix up a quick lighter green. So I'm gonna start with white, then add my yellow, then add my blue. Actually, no, I'm gonna make a decent amount of this because I'm also gonna use it to like layer in the highlight. So for the blending ones, make sure you have a decent amount of that color, because I will say, sometimes you guys kind of go over it again and again, and having to mix the colors again and again is very frustrating. Scooping, scooping. Oh, and I have complementary colors right next to each other. Nice, that will look good. I'm gonna fix that bottom edge of the sphere. Okay, so every time, especially for this one, I'm really drying off my brush because you don't want water. It thins out the paint and then you're gonna have to like do another layer. You want like a good solid base for the blending. dark green. And so again, make sure you have a lot of the colors you have selected. And then for your actual painting, you guys will be mixing the background. You'll mix like these kind of background colors that you want to use for the major parts of your painting. That way you have it, and you'll mix more than you think you're going to need in those extra containers that were provided to you. So I will do a demonstration on how to start your painting. My goal is to finish a mini little painting with you guys. We'll see if that happens, because that's right about the time where the grading is insane, more insane than it has been. And I've probably made more art this semester than I have for a couple of years, because I'm having to do all these projects with you. Normally I just start it and then get you guys going and then walk around the room and help, but hopefully the helping part is the whole entire video. Okay, I'm flattening out, making sure it's not lumpy. Yeah. Trying to touch just the dry parts. Okay. Gosh, this is really curling up on me. It dries flat, but when it's wet, it curls up. They keep making canvas paper cheaper and cheaper. It's because there's not a ton of gesso on this paper. Whatever happened to quality? No, I'm just kidding. It's gone by the wayside. It's all about profit margins for your shareholders. Or the company. Okay, I feel like that shadow got a little crazy, but whatever. Okay. All right, so set that aside. You can practice on just a regular scratch piece of paper if you want, but we're going to practice with your brushes just to see what kind of brush strokes the brushes themselves make. So I'd kind of pick a color that you're not going to use a lot of. So I'm using my larger brush. Mine, I think almost all of our larger brushes are flat brushes where it's skinny on one side and thicker on another. So there's a multitude of brush strokes you can do. You could be like Paul Cézanne and actually apply, you know, like squares of color. You could kind of do like a Van Gogh-y bigger where you're kind of layering it on but kind of blending. Then I'd switch brushes. So this one is a round brush. Some of you have round brushes of different sizes. So this one, kind of same thing. It could be like Van Gogh-ish, but I'm kind of blending it together and doing it a little bit faster. If I wanted to do this technique, I mean, then it's just skinnier because it's a smaller brush. So it's still kind of Van Gogh-y. I'm just kind of layering it on top. Another way is to like literally do like your blotting or blobbing. So for some of you that struggle with painting, this might work, except for you have to use a smaller brush. So it kind of, yeah, I mean, it looks like it's easy, but you still have to layer it and blend it and fade it. So you're just kind of blotting or blobbing, kind of like pointillism, but with a bigger brush. Or you can kind of like hold it at an angle and tap it. I've had students do their whole painting like in these swirls. You're actually twisting the brush. I had one girl that did a whole painting like that. It looked really cool. So pretty much post-impressionism is finding your way, your style of applying the paint. Or I just look up paintings. I look at how the brush strokes look. Okay, this is my smaller brush. And so I look at like, okay, that almost looks the same as that one. But what if I wanted to do like horizontal, more distinct? Or another one is like kind of like streaky blending, where then I'd pick up a color and I'm just kind of like not rinsing out my brush and just kind of making it like kind of flow and kind of blending but not blending. So that counts too. That one for some people, it's a mixture between blending and post-impressionism. So after blending, you're like, hey, I think I could combine those. Then that works out. So kind of test out what you want on a scratch piece of paper. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you're just gonna straight up put it on your practice. So obviously the big brush is not, oh, this is really curling up. I've never had canvas paper do this. Cheap canvas paper. Okay. And I'm gonna try to like be careful. Actually, I'm gonna put my paint over here so I'm not putting my arm in that wet blended one. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit smaller of my brush. And or another thing you could do is like test out one type of brush stroke in the background, a different type of brush stroke in the surface, and a different type of brush stroke in the sphere. So that's probably what I'm actually going to do. Okay, so for mixing, I have a folded piece of newspaper. I used it before. It has my paint from before. I just folded it in half. I'm continuing to use that piece to paint on. What I'm going to start with is this color, which is that color here. So I'm going to pull out some of that color, and I'm going to make like a purplish for the core shadow. So I do kind of start in with value mapping a little. So, oops, sorry, pink, blue, and add a little bit of red. That looks kind of blah. That's a nicer color. Red, violet, add a little bit of white. Okay, so for this kind, it's okay if I just swirl it and see some of the other colors in there. That's actually pretty good. You want it to be like that. So I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to go in the direction of the sphere. And then while I have this color, actually, where is my sphere? Right, there we go. While I have this color, I'm gonna plop some in the background. Let's see, what direction do I want to go? I'm gonna go vertical. So I'm gonna just kind of like wipe off my brush in a way, just to kind of get some layers on there. Just throw some on there. And then in the cast shadow, I'm going to stay horizontal on the surface. So I'm going to kind of, actually I might kind of blob it. Maybe I'll do blobs on the surface, because a lot of you like to do it, but then it doesn't look good. So I want to show you how to refine if you're just going to blob paint on there, because I'm definitely not going to blob paint for my final painting. Okay, so what I would do is keep this puddle, dunk my brush in water, swirl some water into it, and then add another color. So I can add a little bit more red to it, and maybe a little bit more. probably too much, but that's okay. So now I have a similar color, and I'm kind of definitely add, oh, that's our lava paint right there. So I'm giving it some space though. I want some of the original color kind of showing through. Giving it some space. Okay, well I have this color, I'm going to lay some in the background. Go right up to the edge and kind of pull down. Same. And you can do all the same technique, like you're like, I definitely want to do this brush stroke. That's fine. I just wanted to show you guys some different ways. Lay it in there. Okay, so then for the value mapping part, I'm going to pull out a little bit of white, the original color, swirl, a little bit of water. The water also lets it stay wet longer, and it obviously makes it dry slower. So some movement like Van Gogh, but definitely not as much. Okay, so I'm going to throw that on there. I'm going to use some of this like on the pink on pink on the surface. And now I'm starting to think about my background. Looks like a little bit lighter back in here. Some lighter along the edge, and then I'm just going to kind of fade that up into what I have. So yes, it can look sloppy, but you still need to kind of refine. Okay, a little bit lighter. I'm going to fade out that line. So I'm going to kind of go along the edge, fade it into what I have. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do that in layer. And then in the next video, I'll show you how to kind of refine and like heighten the highlights and perfect, etc. So I'm going to do, so you need like 10 different colors at least. So therefore in the background I have 4 already, so I need at least 6 more layers. In the sphere I have, the background color counts as 1, so I have 4. So I need to like build up my layers. So I'm going to continue to use these same kind of puddles and just add to them and change it slightly. I'm also going to add some orange, probably some orange on the surface, maybe a few touches of orange in the background, etc. So I will see you in the next video, which will be much shorter and not a whole half an hour.